Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. I'm your host Nathan Lyle, and this is WNBA Weekly, the show where every Monday I stand in front of this camera and I go over some of the things that have happened recently in the association and everything I'm looking forward to over the next week. There was a lot of exciting action throughout the league, and the one thing I want to touch upon the most is that the top seems to be the hardest place to be right now in the league. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Just look at some of the trends that have happened. The Mystics started out 4-0, then they lose 4 of the next 5. The Connecticut Sun start out 7-1, then drop 4 in a row. The Phoenix Mercury managed to pull off 9 consecutive victories, and now they've dropped 2 in a row. And then next week they're going to be on the road the entire week. There is a disturbing trend that once you're at the top, you seem to stumble a little bit and fall. So we'll see how much that continues. Let's be watching very closely to the Sparks especially. They've been in top 3 all year. They've got a rough schedule coming up soon. Meanwhile, you've got a Minnesota team that is doing so very well. They've put 4 consecutive wins together. They've gotten to 7-6. This is the first time that they've been above 500 since that first week when they were 2-1. They are finally starting to look like themselves. Maya Moore's been the leading scorer. Fowles is still getting her double-doubles. Augustus and Whalen are having strong contributions every game. If I'm being honest, they still don't scare me right now. But, like I said, it feels like they're finally getting back into their groove. They're looking like the Minnesota team that won the championship last year. I still have doubts about whether they can do it this year, but it's a long season. We'll see how they keep going, because they still have room to improve. Speaking of room to improve, I think the Aces, the way they look right now, they could be the next Minnesota Lynx. They could be the next team that spends the next 10 years just dominating the league, going to finals after finals. I mean, Asia Wilson's had a bunch of double-doubles here in her rookie season. I think she's still the leading scorer for the team. McBride is hitting her stride. You see improvements from Plum. They've got a lot of incredibly talented young players. Their current starting lineup has 2 rookies and 2 second-year players. So there's a lot of room to grow. This could be a very talented lineup that could just end up being very deadly in 2 or 3 seasons, and they could end up just going to the finals 5, 6, 7 times in a row. And Bird and Alysha has this team in shape. They're competitive even in half of their losses, and they've already managed to win 5 games. The San Antonio Stars in their last 3 years had 8, 7, and 8 wins. That was how their seasons went. And yet, we're less than halfway through the year, and Vegas already has 5 wins. I don't think anyone really believes that this team has a legitimate shot at a title, but right now they look like they might actually be in that playoff fight. It kind of still feels like a long shot. We'll have to see how the season progresses, but it looks like they have a legitimate chance the way they've been playing already, with plenty of room to improve. Like I said, a lot of young players who are still figuring things out. Once everything starts clicking, all the pieces fall perfectly into place, this team could damn near be unstoppable. And another testament to the brilliance that is Lambeer is you look at New York and how badly they're playing. This is a team that 3 straight years won 20 games, yet right now they've got twice as many losses as they do wins. If you saw my preseason power rankings, you can see that I predicted this. However, I understood the possibility that I might be wrong. In fact, I thought that there was a strong chance I could be wrong. Yet somehow, if you look at the standings right now, the bottom 4 teams in the league look almost exactly like what I said they would. A team that won 20 games last year, that has basically the exact same roster as they did last season, and the biggest difference is the head coach. Yet, you can't necessarily say it's Katie's fault that she's not doing things well, because it's a tough league. It's hard to win, and you can't really expect a player, a coach, no matter how much experience they have as a player, how long they spend as an assistant behind someone. It's completely different when you're actually in the driver's seat. Even if you know all of the right things to say, even if you know all of the right things to do, there's a huge difference between knowing what to do and knowing how to handle it. and actually going out there and handling it. I think Katie could be a great coach in this league, but it's probably going to take a couple of years for her to really get comfortable. Because even Laimbeer, when he first went to New York, it took a couple of years for him to get comfortable with his players and to build up the roster to get to that point where they were dominating every year. There are very few coaches that can step in year one and lead their team to a championship, especially when it's their first ever time as a head coach on the highest level. It's a hard job. It's very difficult. I would not want to do it. And I also just wanted to mention briefly, in case you haven't done it already, All-Star voting is live. Be sure to get in there, vote for your favorite players. And let me tell you, it is incredibly difficult this year. There are a lot of incredibly talented players, and I want all of them to go through. I wish I could have 50 votes a day. So after all of the excitement from this week, here are your current standings. Now, a few games to look forward to in the upcoming week. As always, I will tell you which ones are currently scheduled to broadcast nationally. And for the rest, check your local listings, or you can watch every single game on WNBA League Pass. As always, the times I'm telling you will be Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to adjust for your time zone. I would love to get into specifics, but I really can't this week just because there is so much happening. There could be a ton of reshuffling in the standings this week, because every single team in the league has 3 games, except for the Sparks and Liberty, who are playing 4 games this week. And then you've got the Sparks, the Liberty, the Wings, and the Sun. All 4 of those teams have a back-to-back this week. You've got teams like the Mercury and the Dream, who are on the road all week. The Mystics are the only team that get to play every single game at home this week. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm going to be paying close attention to the Sparks this week, because there's been a trend of teams at the top having a long week and then stumbling. The Sparks are playing 4 games this week. All the teams that have done that, the Mystics, the Sun, the Aces, the best record that any of those teams had was 2-2. 4 games in 6 days, including a back-to-back. The Sparks are going to have a rough time. Can they win all 4 of them? Yes. But is it also possible for them to lose all 4 of them? Definitely. Both physically and mentally, it is a lot to ask. Tuesday night, there's going to be a nightcap game on Twitter at 9:30. Wednesday, you've got a morning game, 12 p.m., and then you've got a doubleheader on NBA TV. Thursday, you've got one game at 7 o'clock in NBA Team, and then another game later on ESPN2. Friday, you've got one NBA TV game. Saturday, you've got 1 game total, and then on Sunday, we have another 5-game day. This could be possibly the most important week of the season, because this is where I think teams are going to start to show us who they really are. Because any team that can manage to get out of this week 3-0 or 4-0, they're going to be in that top 4 for the rest of the season, basically. Because this is going to be one of the hardest weeks they have to play. So if you can handle this, the rest of the year is probably going to feel like a cakewalk by comparison. So that's it for this episode. Tune in next Monday for another all-new edition of WNBA Weekly. And until then, this has been The Fan Perspective. I'm your host, Nathan Lyle. Hope you have a great week. I think my neighbor might be dead, because this is the first time ever that he's gone 24 hours without blasting his damn music so loud that it's shaking my walls. I legitimately think that he might be dead. But don't worry, I still had disruptions. There was an ambulance that I think got the wrong directions, because it went by, and then it seemed to stop, turn around, and circle back again.